Welcome to another home automation video, and this is going to be a new one because I started to work with AI and specifically ChatGPT from OpenAI. Well, because obviously this is the year of the AI and chatbots and everything, and I wanted to use it for something because if you happen to follow or bump into any of these AI bros on social media, you see how you can build automations using make.com or there are a couple of these platforms, and how you can link stuff together. But we can also link stuff together in Node-RED. So I thought maybe I'm just going to jump the make.com part and I'm going to do most of the stuff in Node-RED. And obviously I just use ChatGPT at the end to do the ChatGPT stuff and create the content. But I can do all the collection and everything in Node-RED itself, because after all, we have Node-RED, we know how to use it. So why not just use that? Even though it could be a little bit more complicated than, let's say, using make.com, because it looks like a really good platform. It is very similar to Node-RED in a way that you have these blocks, and then messages are going from one to another, and you are using the data was generated by one box and then reusing them to another. So similar thing, but obviously it is Node-RED is different. So what I have built is I used the EV-Link Cube forum to ask some questions when I started using iHost and some of the other Sonoff products. And I thought I'm just going to keep an eye on that forum just to see what other peoples are doing, if there are some very interesting projects, something that I can help out. And there was one functionality in the EV-Link forum that I can subscribe to every new topic that was created. So as you can see, I get a lot of emails from the EV-Link Cube topic on obviously new topics that somebody asked. And I don't think that every single forum engine offers this function that you get an email notification when a new topic is created, but this one does. So I thought I'm just going to have these emails, and from time to time I'm going to look through them. And then from time to time I did look through them, but after a couple of weeks I just stopped looking at, and then these emails started piling up. So I thought that maybe it's going to be a good idea to use ChatGPT for that. And what I have done is I created an automation that basically just looks through my inbox, looks at all these notification emails that you can see, these ones, and it's going to extract them, send them to ChatGPT, and then tell it to just look through them and then try to summarize these emails, which okay, this summary is not really useful. But also try to pick out the ones where it is about some new functionality or new feature or new project that somebody has done, because obviously there was a lot of questions, things are not working, or Zigbee device that is not supported, which I'm not too interested about. I'm just genuinely interested about new ideas. So you can see the things that it picked up from these emails, which is yeah, I mean, just by reading the title, it looks like that it is actually some, new ideas and not some just rant or, issues that somebody is trying to raise. So basically, I'm just giving it all the emails, asking it to read through the emails, pick out anything which is sort of like new project, list them out in a format like this, also provide a URL, which I'm obviously supplying the URL, and then also create a very short summary of the email, which is, the new topic. And obviously when I get the email when the new topic is raised, so it doesn't contain any of the comments yet. So for that point, it's not ideal because it doesn't really follow the progression of that forum topic. But I'm getting these summaries at the end of the month, well, basically every 30 days or every month. Which means that in most cases, by the time I got the email, probably there is some discussion started already. So when I look at it, then I can just quickly read through it. But as you can see, I'm presented with 3 potential candidates for new projects and ideas instead of the very lot of emails that I otherwise would have to read through. So let me show you how this works in Node-RED. It's not a complicated flow, and it is more like a bit of like a scraper data collection flow, which I have done a couple in the past, but I don't think I have done many videos on that. So that's also interesting how you can do this in Node-RED without using any AI, just basically just good old-fashioned data collection, scraping, because obviously these emails are sort of like unstructured data. Well, not entirely unstructured, as we are going to see them. But also I'm going to use some of the other features that I haven't really used in other videos. So basically what it does, it just runs, it triggers, I just configured it to every 10th of the month, so the 10th day of the month, and then it sets up the emails. So basically it just gets all the emails from my Gmail account, and then it's going to basically run a very simple HTML node on these emails, and I'm using this HTML node to extract the user who created the topic question, and the link, because that's the information that I'm going to combine and give it to ChatGPT at the end. And obviously I'm going to create a prompt for ChatGPT to instruct it to collect all the relevant information, the ones that I described below or just earlier, and then the output just gets formatted to an email, and it is sent out to Gmail. So it is not that complicated. There is obviously a lot of logic which is included in the prompt for ChatGPT, and also I do like the fact that I managed to create a prompt where I instructed ChatGPT to give me the results in a specific format, and so instead of just giving a very simple text, I ask him to output the results in JSON, so I can just easily put it into an email and just send it to me. And once we look at how the flow works, I'm just going to quickly jump into the OpenAI as well, because how you set this up, because once you start using the API, it's not a free service, just like as opposed to when you can just log into OpenAI, create an account, and then you can start talking to ChatGPT. But obviously the APIs are a paid service, but I'm not subscribed to the monthly. I basically just use a pay-as-you-go plan that you're going to see later. Okay, so let's look at the source data. So these are the emails that I have, and this is how the email looks like. So at least these emails are very well formatted, because they always start here with the user ID, and then basically it has the question. Most of the cases I've seen, the questions are the topics are relatively short. I don't know if there are any cases where the topic is longer and more complicated, formatted in a more complicated way. And obviously here in the visit topic button, there is going to be a link that we are going to extract. Okay, so first there is an inject node which triggers 3 a.m. in the morning every single day, and I have a very simple function node which takes the today's date and extracts the date, and if it's the 10th, so 10th day of the month, then the message returns that it's message just goes through this function node. Otherwise it just and it also shows that it's triggering a new email. Otherwise it says it's just not triggering because today is not the date for that. And next I'm setting up a filter, and this is a filter for the email node. So I have used the email sender node quite a lot. What is it called? I think it's also called email. Yeah, that's the email node. But then you can also use the email node to create queries into your mailbox. And in order to do that, you also have to set up filters, unless you want to get all your emails. So in the message.criteria, you can set up criteria, and you can see that I have set up a criteria which says unseen. So I usually leave these emails unread, and the from has to be, you know, this one, and the subject has to be EV link. I want to include the EV link forum summary emails, which I get from EV link as well. So you can see that from time to time, yeah, there is like a summary. So like that's a weekly summary. Maybe I could have just unchecked it in the settings, but you can see that you can also exclude certain emails with a certain subject. So exclamation mark subject is the not subject is, you know, EV link summary. So you basically provide these filters in an array like this. I think it's documented, well, it is definitely documented somewhere. I don't remember where it is. Yes, this IMAP module. And so you see, you click here and you get, it's not really well documented, but I managed to find some examples. I worked my way through these filters. So that basically just gives me all the filters. And I also create this message.source, the EV link. I created this because I thought that I might just reuse this flow for other forums as well that I follow. There is a start and there is a payload which contains the word start. That just gives a message to the flow further down that it's, you know, I'm starting a new scrape. And also in this function node, I creating one more setting for the filter, sorry, one more condition for the criteria, for the filter criteria, which says since. And because in this since filter, I have to give an exact date. I cannot say like, you know, today minus 30 days. So here I just calculate the current date minus 30 days, and I push this date formatted in a US format, and I pushed it into the criteria. So that's basically becomes like since 30 days, so the last 30 days. If I go to this IMAP module, so there is a lot of and I think there are a couple of examples here, and I have seen yeah, so this is seen, answered, deleted, flagged. That was an example how you create the scenes filter, I think. So as I said, that's not the best documented thing. Yeah, email unanswered. So this is one which says, I think, unseen, all the unread messages. You can do from and subject, and also do a lot of other things. And then, yes, since. So that's the filter for emails after a certain date. You see, unseen since April. So that's the format. For example, if you want to see all the unread messages since this date. So as you can see here, you have to provide the date. You know, specifically, there are no like, you know, dynamic things that you can do. At least I don't know how to do that. It's not really specified here, and that's what the function node is supplying. And then basically that just goes into the email node. So this email node is configured that it gets the message from the message criteria, and I think here you can also do like you want to delete the messages once they downloaded. Maybe I can do that in the future, so I don't have the old emails that have been, you know, sent through this ChatGPT logic, but I haven't done that yet. And once this email node triggers, it's going to return the emails, every single email in a separate message. So what I had to do is I had to do this function node, which, as you can see, it receives the message from the filter directly, and it looks at that the payload is start. That's the, you know, the initial payload, and that basically just instructs this tag, knows that okay, there is a new scraping starting. Well, sorry, a new email is going to be flooding soon, so let's start this, and then let's consider this as a new sort of like an email extraction. So it sets up all these IDs here, so it saves all the, you know, the counters and the sources. It puts everything into the context node. So if we go here, it probably still has the oh no, I think it purges the data once it completes. But that's it sets up all these counters and everything, so it knows how many emails it receives. And at some point it will also receive an end message, and that's when it deletes everything. This is why the data is empty now. And that basically just says, okay, I have received 18 emails, and at the end, when it combines the data, it would just wait for these 18 emails. And the way it knows that it only has 18 emails, that once the the email starts, then it's going to wait for 1 minute, assuming that within that 1 minute the Gmail node, the email node will be able to download all the emails, and then it's just going to send an end message. And that's it says, okay, I've received all these emails in this 1 minute time window, so let's just collect all the information and then just push it onto ChatGPT. And in order to collect the information, I'm using these HTML nodes. So I'm not sure if you have used these. These are really, really good nodes. It's a very good node to collect information from an HTML, let's say a web page, or in this case an email, because the emails are rich text formatted emails. So if you look at the original content, you can see that it's the body is an HTML code, and then there is like a big table, and everything is in table cells, and that's how they format the email. So I started to play around with this HTML node, and by the way, if you are here on the info page of the HTML node, you find the link here, how you can use the CSS selectors. And that basically is a sort of like a query language to HTML pages, where you can use various, like you can look for certain tags, certain IDs or attributes in a messy in the HTML code. You can also use these extended attributes like the last element or the first element, or something that contains or empty, or the root element, or the last type, first child, all these different things. And you can be really, really specific, again, if your source HTML is also fairly specific. So I started playing around with it, how I can best extract the information that I need. So I extract basically these three things. So first of all, I extract the div. Every section of the HTML code which has a div inside. Every div in the HTML code, and you can see there is quite a few. So every element of the email, like this is, where is the question? Yeah. You see, I'm using 1.1 version of Cube. So I'm using 1.1 for version of the Cube view. So you can see that it's in a div and in a paragraph. So I said that I looked at a couple of emails, and I noticed that the main content always starts with this type of div. So I said, okay, I need all the divs. And and I only need the text which is contained within the element. So for example, I don't care about the P style and everything, or the BR. I just need the text, because ChatGPT doesn't care about the formatting anyway. I don't care about the formatting, so just give me only the text element inside the div. From this div all the way until to this slash div. And that's not going to be the single one, but yeah. And I want the result as a single message that contains an array of all these elements, and I want to put it into the payload. And what I noticed that I just put the content into a body, because probably I'm going to use this later on. And I also need the A, because those are all the links. So we have the user ID, which is formatted in a link, as you can see here, and you also the visit topic. So I extract the A, and I only need the text elements because I wanted to extract the username, although I'm not really using for anything. And I also needed the A again because I wanted only the object attributes. So here the visit topic is also formatted as a hyperlink, but I don't care about the word visit topic, but I need the href, which contains the link to this particular topic. So that's why I use a different HTML node. And I put everything into, oh, no, yeah. So I put so I set this message.content to body, just to say that this message contains the body of the email, this message contains the user of the email, and this message contains the link to the email. And then everything goes into this combined data function node, which again, it knows that when the whole scraping starts, because that also receives the start message. You can see that it goes all the way through, so that's how it receives the start message. That's when it sets up the context. By the way, can we see that? Oh yeah, so we can see the context. So that was the 18 emails, and then you can see it nicely got the username, the subject. I got the subject as well because that goes into email, and also the body and also the URL. So and also it knows when it's the end message is received. So that's when, okay, we have collected all the emails, we have all the information, let's send the whole bunch through ChatGPT now. So it puts the payload, all this data that it has collected into the payload, and then sends the message out. Other than that, in all other cases, as you can see, if ID, so is the message counter is the ID, because that's what this node does. It creates an ID for every single email. So I received the first email, second email, and that goes through here. So I can see, I can also get the IDs here. And that's how it keeps track of these emails, because obviously the emails are coming in as a single message here, but now for every single email we will create 3 different messages, because you see the wire split here. So we trigger all these HTML nodes, so that would create 3 messages for the topic, the user, the question, basically the topic, and also the link. But then it all contains all these IDs and the counters as well, so that's how I'm able to scrape all this information back here. I could have used maybe like one of the joined nodes, but I needed a function node anyway, so I thought I'm just going to include all the functionality in this node. And of course, I can get the subject from the topic. That's going to be contained in every single message. But you can see if the message.content is the body, then the the data ID body becomes the payload. And just one more thing. So here I said that I need all the divs and I need the resulting message in an array. And because these emails are so nicely formatted, they have the same format, I just figured out that in these array, the 4th element always contains the question. So this is always the 4th div. So probably there is like 3 more divs somewhere here which formats maybe this icon, maybe the user ID, or maybe there is a div for the date, so it shows up in a different color because it's a different style sheet. But it was very consistent that it was always the 4th element which contains the actual question that I was interested about. So this is why I said we have configured the HTML node to return an array. So message.payload and the 3rd one, so 0, 1, 2, 3. So this is the 4th one, and I just did a replace of. I think I'm just replacing all the HTML stuff here. So I get the pure text. I don't need the double thing. And I also extract the user ID. So these are all the H tags. And again, the first in the array was the user ID. And I also extract the links. And it was always the last one which contained the URL. So message.payload, and the index is the message.payload.length -1. href, because in the a tag, the href attribute is the link. So it's very clever. I mean, once you just look at the email or any HTML code or a web page, and then you figure out these key elements and then use this HTML node, it is actually very easy to scrape data out of websites. I mean, you have to do some legwork and do a little bit of experimentation, but as you can see, it was very easy to do. And I think I'm going to turn on the debug node, so maybe you're going to see one of some of these details. So it just keeps adding up all this information into this big array. So I had 18 emails, and for every single email, it basically just pieced all this information together. So we have a user ID from the subject message.topic. We got the email subject, which is the name of the topic, and I think probably I just deleted this first section, so I don't get, did I? Yeah, no, I get the whole thing anyway. And this is the body, so the main question, and that's the URL. And so we get some clean data that we can pass on to ChatGPT. So once this receives the end message as well, which goes through here, so it knows there is no more emails to wait for, then this node is going to output this whole object. That's what it said here. In the end, a payload includes the data. That's the data. And so here I'm using a JSON node because I want to convert it to string, because that's what we will be able to pass through to ChatGPT. And then, of course, I needed to do this magic. So here, if I go a little bit further to this node, so I am using this particular node. Yeah, this one, node red contrib OpenAI. There are probably half a dozen of OpenAI nodes. Some of them are probably better than this one, but this basically just creates a wrapper around the ChatGPT or the OpenAI API to access all the OpenAI API services. So if you don't want to use this, you probably can just use like an HTTP request node, because after all the OpenAI requests are HTTP requests, but at least I have this nice node that I can use. And here, if I look at the reference, I want to use the completion or the chat completion API. That's the typical thing that you use in ChatGPT. So you give it a prompt, please do me this, analyze this data, please, complete, or just you ask a specific or like a generic question, and it's going to give you the result. And here you can also see here in this example what you can do and what you need to do to call this API. So you have to create the content is an application.json. So you will see that I create this JSON input. You also have to do an authorization using a bearer token. So that's what the node will take care of that. We will see that later on. And in the parameters, we have to give it a parameter. So you can see that we have to specify the model that it uses. So like the 4.0 model or an earlier 3.5 model. And it also needs a message structure where it's an array and it has a role, as it has the system role, and it also has the user role. And the response is going to be something like this. So the only thing which is important for us, that this is going to be the response structure, and the response that you usually see in the ChatGPT window when you ask it, then you see the result is going to be in the so that's going to be our message.payload, and in the choices that's going to be the array, and the first index or the first element in this array is going to have a message.content, and that's the text that you will see when you use the ChatGPT. So that's basically the response. And I'm guessing in other scenarios there could be more choices, or there's going to be more stuff here, but I'm not really an expert, so I I don't know those scenarios. I've never seen those scenarios, not yet. So maybe I will get to that part, but not at the moment. And it also gives you some usage. So that's basically just that's how you will be based on how this is what you will be built on, because these tokens are basically represents how much resource and computing power ChatGPT or OpenAI uses to answer these queries. Okay, so now that we understood this, we can just put the prompt together. So you can see that I create a request, and the request API is the chat.completion. And I request.params, I provide the same structure what was in the API reference, so this stuff here. And of course the magic starts here. So I decided to use the GPT 3.5 Turbo because it is not really a complicated question. Probably the 3.5 Turbo, it will be able to cope with that relatively, decently. And again, I'm not really an expert in this, so I don't really know that better. So I think, and also using 3.5 is cheaper than using 4.0. And normally what you do in, when you are using ChatGPT is you type your question, and also type your question and put the data in, let's say, please look at this and analyze and give me something like. So you have your question and your data in the same section, but what we can do here is we can specify the system role. So these are the instructions for ChatGPT, and then you provide in the user role the actual data that it needs to convert. I mean, usually when you are using the chat interface, it's one single box, but here you can do this in one or in two different sections. I don't claim to be, an expert in prompt engineering, but I try to follow these. I think it's the Ryzen framework, or probably there are multiple names of it. In order to provide a good framework, you have to specify a role, what role the ChatGPT should be acting in, and also what is the input data, what you need as an instructions, and if you have some output data, and how it should present the results. So this is what I come up with. I said you are a smart home expert, and you are provided with a list of forum topics in this area. These topics are provided in a JSON format in an array. So basically I just explained, well, not this one, but these data sets that this function node spits out, and of course I just convert it to text so I can put it into the payload. And each element has a user attribute which contains user ID, a subject attribute which contains the topic's subject, and the URL attribute which contains the link to the web page, and a body attribute which contains the actual message. So again, I just explained how the data, the input data looks like. First, create a summary of all the topics, and then summarize the nature of them in a few sentences. So that's basically, where is the other email? That's basically this. Then list out each of the topics that are about new functionality or new home automation ideas. In this list, call out the subject, the URL, and the short summary of the body text. So the subject, the URL, and the short summary of the body text. Format your responses in HTML so it can be sent as a formatted email. So that's my formatted email. So this is why I said that, again, I'm not an expert in ChatGPT. If you know prompt engineering any better, you probably know that this can be worded in or structured in a more structured way to give, specific. I know that you can use these tags or some other specific stuff, but as a first test, it seems to be working pretty good already. At least I'm quite happy with the results so far. To be honest, I'm making these videos after the second email, so I'm not saying I have a huge history of how well this performs over time. Okay, so this is the prompt. So that's basically the system role, and the user role is the message.payload. So that's basically the JSON serialized format of the data that we could see in a couple of minutes ago. And that goes into the ChatGPT. So all you have to do here is you have to provide an API key. So in order to set up these API keys, you have to go into your OpenAI.com account. You go to your profile, and you can see here the profile. And when you click on organization, you can see your organization ID here. So this is that's basically the first ID that you need to provide. And of course, when you are setting up your account, you will ask to create this organization. Yeah, I just put in personal. I don't know. Probably if you're managing multiple organizations, if you want to, set up some of these services on behalf of somebody, or you're creating services to multiple different organizations, you want to separate billing, that sort of stuff, then these organizations will make sense. And then you go to organizational overview. So once you go into organization overview, here you have the API keys, which I'm not going to click on, but that's where you can create API keys. And going back to Node-RED, when you set up a new API key, it's going to ask you to enter these two information. So your organization ID and your API key. And once you have done that, you're ready to go. And maybe before I continue, I also talk about these usage and prices. So as I said, I am not subscribed to the 20 US per month. I don't know whether it's called Pro or something like that. So that's where you can create these custom GPTs, which you create by setting up pretty much the same, system prompt that I just showed you before. So what I have done is I created this account, and I topped up this account with, I think, 10 US. That was the minimum amount that I could do. And again, you do that by going to your profile, and then you go to billing, and I just added a credit balance. And as you can see, I added $10, and so far I used 2 cents. I haven't done a lot of queries, but regardless, they don't cost too much, to be honest. Well, based on the experience and based on the limited amount of data that I'm feeding into this query. So if I go back to usage now, you can see that I was playing around with some stuff here, but still, I think probably on this day the system was creating one of these emails, and here I was testing some stuff out. Maybe I created 2 emails, but it still says that this was built less than 1 cent for this query. So probably out of these few, I have used up the 2 cents of the $10 credit that I uploaded, and this credit expires. Well, it's valid for, I can use it for 1 year. So it's not an awful lot of money that you are going to spend on just by experimenting with ChatGPT. And yeah, so the output goes into an email, and actually I have an example that I extracted, so I can test the email setup without triggering ChatGPT for testing. So that's basically the data format that comes out of ChatGPT. So it says that we just use the completion, that was the model, and that was the prompt, and then so that's also including the message that comes out of the ChatGPT node, and you can see that the payload contains all the information that we have seen in the API reference. So it has, within the payload, it has a choices, and that was index 0, and in its message, and then content. And you can see HTML head, summary of the EV-Link forum topics. Summary of the EV-Link forum topics. So basically, it just created that formatted email that I asked it to do. Yeah, and you can see all the links and everything, and yeah. And there was some usage stuff, and there was only one item in the choices, nothing else. Simple. And all I have done is I formatted into an email. So I said the email, the topic is EV-Link AI summary. So that becomes the subject. And the payload is message.payload.choices0. So msg.payload.choices0.message.content. That's the email body. So ChatGPT already done the formatting. I don't have to do anything. And I just put the whole thing into an email node, which is configured for my Gmail. So then it just sends the email. That's it. So really, in this flow, the ChatGPT part is very, very simple. It's mainly these, collecting information, trying to get, basically just match all these different messages that are generated for every single email, match them together to create this output, and then the rest of it is basically in this prompt, which I don't have to, create the data into very special format. I just have to create it in a format, in a sort of like a structured format, and then just tell ChatGPT what this format is. And also I just specify them how I want the output format to look like. So I want to send an email, so I created an email, so I don't have to do any formatting. It just sends out an email. I mean, the formatting was good enough for me. I could have, spent more time explaining the format if I wanted. But if I wanted to process that information, I would have said to, in the prompt that I want the output in a JSON format where the items should be in an array or something. I mean, you can explain the output format just the way that I explained the input format here. So I think that's pretty much it. And I have created this whole flow very, very generic, so you can use it for this, for a very similar function. Again, assuming that your source comes from email. If it comes from any other source, then obviously there is a, big bunch of this flow that you have to rewrite yourself. But the end result is, once the information is collected, you just give it in a structured format. You explain this in the prompt. You give it to ChatGPT and see what comes out of it. And of course, before I did this, I would copy this prompt and then just put it into a normal ChatGPT chat that you probably have used before. And also after the prompt, I would just paste in the data that I got from this node after the JSON, and just put it into ChatGPT and see how it works. And of course, you can use that. I mean, that you can use that for free. So you can do a couple of trials of your prompt, what prompt works the best way. If you like the output, do you have to tweak your prompt in order to get a better output or get the output that you expect? And then once everything works, then you basically just use the copy the latest result and just put it into this function node. Actually, you can see my earlier attempts here. So as you can see, that's the prompt. I think that's basically the same prompt which I have in the Node-RED flow. The only difference here is that I added this where the topics are, and I just basically pasted in the entire JSON. All these stuff here. I think probably I have more emails here, so there was more stuff that it could work on. And okay, this was I think this was a version of the prompt where the results were formatted in a different output, because it was just more like a bullet output. But you can see this the content is the same. And in this particular case, I think the summary was a better summary. Maybe that again the input data was different, so there was more thing that it could summarize from the set of emails, and also the recommendations were different. Again, different set of data. So as I said, you can use this normal ChatGPT stuff to play around and fine-tune the prompt, and you don't have to pay for this. Maybe there is a limit. I haven't really used ChatGPT that I would hit any limit, but these are the stuff that you can use and then just play around with free. And then once everything is working and you are happy with the results, and then you can just take the beginning of the prompt and put it into here, and the rest goes into the user role. That's the message.payload. Actually, I should have put a semicolon here. Oh, sorry, no, this is a JSON, no semicolon. Of course. So yeah, that's it. So I have fuffled about this for quite a long time already, 51 minutes. I'm going to share this flow with you, so you will find the download links in the video description. As I said, it is specifically written to get all this information in email. So if you have a separate Sibiter forum where you can have this information that it collects, it is going to send you an email for every single topic. Then of course you can use that. You probably still have to rewrite most of this scraper stuff, because if the email format is different, then these pieces of information that you are looking for, like the question and the link and that sort of stuff, is going to be in a different place. But hopefully I explained quite a lot of it already, so you can just, you know, play around with it and then use this HTML node. This HTML node is not quick, because these selectors are, I find it somewhat complicated, but you can play around with it. Maybe you can just create like an inject node with a sample email, and then just put it to, you know, various HTML nodes, see what the output is, and then see which one works best. I mean, the whole thing is that the emails, since they are generated by, you know, program logic, it's going to be in the same format. So once you dial these HTML nodes in for one single email, it will probably work for all the emails. Well, that was my experience as well. Okay, I think that was enough about this topic. I hope you find it useful, but that's going to be all for today. Thanks for watching, and hopefully see you next video.